Donald Trump is a lunatic who must be stopped. And in today's breaking story, the Republican Senate just dropped a surprise bomb on Donald Trump. That's right, Donald Trump is out of control. And today, for our first story, we're gonna look at the perfect example of playing stupid games and winning stupid prizes. Take a look at this. I have to show you guys this.
Bad news for you. You can't be MAGA.
I am MAGA and a Christian. This is crazy. I know we're not Kirk County. I know we're not Kerrville. I know we're not San Angelo or San Antonio. But hell, we're human beings. Uh-oh, I think you woke up this morning misinformed. The hate's on the left, not on the MAGA side. Help us. Give us what we need. We're not going to help out anybody. Y'all been living on food stamps, EBT, Section 8 housing your entire freaking lives, and you're not going to do it anymore. If you can work, you're an able-bodied person, go get a job. I'm tired of paying for it. But for God's sakes, Travis County, help us.
Typical Trump supporter, right? Low IQ, low empathy, but then when they need help, they're dying for some of the hospitality that they voted away. Now, leading into our featured story, a Republican senator dropped a surprise bomb on Donald Trump, and it all happened in a new exclusive interview with CNN.
Come together.
What does the Republican Party need to do to get its message right? Less fealty to one man?
I have fealty to ideals. I don't have fealty to any one man. And I do believe that we're doing the president a disservice. President Trump, nor any president, could possibly be expected to have a detailed understanding of all the things that they have to deal with. What the president needs to do is start really looking at the outcome of some of these policy decisions and ask himself, is he really getting the best professional advice? That's what I've been trying to provide him for the last few years, and that's what I'm going to continue to provide him. And it's worth what he paid for it, but as somebody who's been in elected office for 20 years at the leadership level in the State House and doing all I can up here, I hope that he starts listening to more of us and fewer of those people who pretend like they're the president when he's out of the room over in the White House.
Who are you talking about?
There will be plenty of time for me to cover that later.
Not later in this interview.
Right.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet the answer is Stephen Miller, 100%. But believe me, it gets even worse, because the Republican senator went a step further when he dropped this massive bombshell on Donald Trump and his administration. Take a look.
You mentioned earlier that you thought President Trump was getting bad advice, not just about this bill, but also maybe about some of his nominees. You ultimately voted for both RFK Jr. for HHS Secretary and Pete Hegseth for Defense Secretary, even though your vote was not guaranteed until the end there. Do you regret those votes now that you've seen them in office?
Well, first, I need to set the record straight on Hegseth. I had already informed my conference that I was going to defer to the Senate Armed Services vote. If he got a unanimous vote out of Senate Armed Services, then I was going to defer to them. I was on that committee for several Congresses. But then there was that allegation that came out on that Sunday. It was net new information. I complete my due diligence. And so I interviewed a number of people. I was called over to the White House on the Thursday night asking me to vote for them. I said, I may. The vote's not till tomorrow. I've still got to complete my due diligence. And quite honestly, there were conversations that I had on Friday that made me put this allegation in the same category as the other ones that I'd worked on before he was confirmed. Now,
this had to do with abusive tactics towards women?
That's right. Yeah. But what it came down to is, honestly, there was never an example of an eyewitness corroborated account. And I had to be fair to Pete Hegseth on that issue. Now, with the passing of time, I think it's clear he's out of his depth as a manager of a large, complex organization.
Yeah, what was your reaction to the Signalgate situation?
Well, that's just one. I mean, this whole idea of having a pause in Ukraine defensive arms, right. That's just amateurish. I mean, that's from somebody who doesn't understand large organization dynamics. So, I don't regret the decision I made back then based on the facts as I knew them then. But today I am beginning to wonder if maybe Armed Services was a little bit generous with respect to their assessment of his capabilities as a manager of the world's largest, most complex, and arguably consequential organization.
So you don't regret it, but if you had to do it again today, you probably wouldn't vote yes?
I think based on the information I have today, if all I had was the information on the day of the vote, I'd certainly vote for him again. But now I have the information of him being a manager, and I don't think that his probationary period's been very positive.
And the craziest thing is, he's not alone. Various other Republican senators and Republican representatives have harsh criticisms for Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was responsible for pausing weapons shipments to Ukraine. That pause later overturned. You told my colleague Scott Wong that whoever ordered the weapons pause should be fired. Do you think Secretary Hegseth should be fired as a result of this?
You know, I've said this before about the signal gate. It wasn't handled well. The secretary should have taken responsibility, admitted he made a mistake, but instead he doubled down, blamed the journalist, and then denied there was a problem with putting sensitive data on an unclassified system for attack. And I called for his resignation or being fired then, and I feel the same way now. When he makes the decision to not send weapons to Ukraine that was appropriated by Congress, signed by the previous president, and he didn't even notify President Trump or seek his approval, and it embarrassed the president. He had to address this to a world stage why these weapons were shut off, and he didn't know. And so, yes, the Secretary of Defense should have showed better judgment here.
At the end of the day, even Republicans are starting to realize that Hegseth is a disaster, and by extension, Trump is a disaster. Remember to hit that like button if you also agree it's time for Pete Hegseth to resign.